First contact with the ruins. The Artemis hung in high orbit above Kepler 186f, its sleek hull reflecting the dim red light of the distant star. Dr. Sarah Chen stood at the observation deck, her dark eyes fixed on the planet's surface, where strange geometric patterns had first caught their attention 3 days ago. As the ship's lead xenorchaeologist, she'd spent her career searching for signs of alien civilization. Now, after 15 years of space exploration, they'd found something that defied all expectations. Dr. Chen, Captain Reynolds requests your presence in the briefing room, the ship's AI announced, breaking her contemplation. Sarah made her way through the curved corridors of the research vessel, her steps quickened by anticipation. The briefing room was already filled with the mission's key personnel when she arrived. Captain Reynolds, a weathered woman with steel-gray hair, stood before a holographic display of the planet's surface. "The surface scans are complete," Reynolds announced as Sarah took her seat. "And what we found." She manipulated the hologram, zooming in on a vast complex of structures that seemed to emerge from the planet's crust like crystal formations. "This isn't just some abandoned outpost. We're looking at the remains of a planetary civilization." The structures sprawled across an area roughly the size of Australia, their crystalline spires reaching kilometers into the sky. But what made them truly remarkable was their state of preservation. They showed no signs of weathering or decay, despite preliminary dating suggesting they were at least 1 million years old. "The energy readings are unlike anything we've ever encountered," Dr. Marcus Wong, their physicist, added. "These structures aren't just preserved. They're still active, running on some power source we can't even detect with our instruments." Sarah leaned forward, studying the holographic display. "The architecture suggests a civilization far beyond our current technological level. The crystalline structures appear to be grown rather than built, indicating mastery over matter at the molecular level. Which brings us to the real question," Captain Reynolds said, her voice grave. "Do we send down a ground team?" The room fell silent. Humanity's first contact protocols were clear. Observation and remote study were preferred over direct interaction with alien artifacts. But the potential knowledge to be gained here was immeasurable. Sarah spoke first. "Captain, those structures have stood for 1 million years. If they were going to pose a threat, they would have done so when we entered orbit. I volunteer to lead the ground team." Reynolds studied her for a long moment before nodding. "Assemble your team, Doctor. But remember, at the first sign of danger, we pull out." 6 hours later, Sarah stood in the shuttle bay with her chosen team. Dr. Wong, their physicist, Lieutenant Maria Santos, their security expert, and Dr. James Harper, their systems specialist. Each wore the latest in protective gear, suits designed to shield them from both biological and technological threats. As the shuttle descended through the atmosphere, Sarah's heart raced with a mixture of excitement and apprehension. They were about to step into the remains of an alien civilization, to walk where beings from another world had once walked. The implications were staggering. The shuttle touched down on a crystalline platform that seemed to pulse with a faint inner light. Through the viewport, the structures towered above them like mountains made of translucent crystal, their surfaces etched with patterns that seemed to shift and change as she watched. "Environmental readings are stable," Wong reported. "Atmosphere is surprisingly Earth-like, though with higher oxygen content. Temperature is 15 degrees Celsius. No detection of harmful radiation or biological agents." Sarah took a deep breath. "Let's make history." As they stepped out of the shuttle, the crystal beneath their feet began to glow softly, spreading out in a ripple effect from where they stood. The air was still and carried a slight metallic taste, even through their suits' filtration systems. "Look at this," Harper called out, kneeling to examine the crystal surface. "These patterns, they're not random. They're changing in response to our presence." Sarah moved closer to examine the phenomenon. The patterns indeed seemed to be reacting to their movements, forming complex geometric shapes that reminded her of mathematical equations. It's like the whole structure is alive, or at least responsive to intelligent life. They made their way toward the nearest spire, their footsteps leaving trails of light in the crystalline surface. As they approached, a section of the wall seemed to dissolve, revealing an entrance that hadn't been visible moments before. "That's an invitation if I ever saw one," Santos muttered, her hand resting on her weapon. Inside, the crystal walls were translucent, allowing a diffused light to penetrate from outside. The patterns here were more complex, forming what appeared to be three-dimensional diagrams and symbols that floated in the crystal itself. "This is incredible," Wong breathed, scanning the walls with his instruments. "The crystal matrix appears to be some kind of data storage system. The patterns we're seeing might be information." As they ventured deeper into the structure, the responses to their presence became more pronounced. Holographic displays began to materialize in the air around them, showing what appeared to be star charts, mathematical formulas, and diagrams of incredible complexity. "It's like a library," Sarah realized, her voice filled with wonder. "They left this for someone to find, for us to find." A sudden vibration ran through the structure, and new patterns began to form in the air before them. The symbols were different now, simpler, changing and evolving as if. "It's teaching us," Harper said, his eyes wide behind his faceplate. "The system is analyzing our responses and adapting its output to help us understand." For hours, they watched as the alien library attempted to communicate with them, building a bridge between their two species across 1,000,000 years of time. The symbols gradually became more comprehensible, forming patterns that seemed to correspond to basic mathematical and physical concepts. But it was what they found in the central chamber that truly shook them to their core. As the patterns of light coalesced into recognizable forms, they began to tell a story. The story of a civilization that had achieved mastery over matter and energy, that had spread across countless stars, and that had faced a choice that would echo across millions of years. "Captain," Sarah called over their comlink, her voice trembling with the weight of their discovery. "You need to see this. What we found. It changes everything we thought we knew about our place in the universe." As she stared at the holographic display before them, Sarah realized that this was more than just a repository of alien knowledge. It was a message, left behind by a civilization that had seen something coming, something that humanity needed to know about. The real question was, were they ready for what these ancient beings had to tell them? The neural interface. The crystalline chamber hummed with an otherworldly resonance as Dr. Sarah Chen studied the strange device they'd discovered in the heart of the alien complex. It was unlike anything they'd found so far. A floating sphere of what appeared to be liquid crystal, suspended in a field of shifting energy patterns. The sphere pulsed with a soft, blue-white light that seemed to beat in rhythm with her own heart. "The energy signatures are off the charts," Dr. Wong reported, his instruments trained on the sphere. "But there's something else. The patterns match human brainwave frequencies almost exactly." Lieutenant Santos shifted uncomfortably, her hand never far from her weapon. "You're saying this thing is tuned to human consciousness?" "That's not possible. These ruins are millions of years old." "Unless it's adaptive," Dr. Harper suggested, his fingers dancing across his tablet as he analyzed the data. "Everything else we've seen here responds to our presence. This could be doing the same thing on a deeper level." Sarah couldn't take her eyes off the sphere. There was something almost hypnotic about its pulsing light, as if it were calling to her. She took a step closer, and the light intensified, creating patterns that reminded her of neural networks. "Dr. Chen," Santos warned, "maybe we should wait for additional safety protocols before." "Look at these markings," Sarah interrupted, pointing to the base of the sphere. The crystal there had formed into distinct patterns, different from the mathematical sequences they'd seen before. "These are instructions." The patterns shifted and flowed, becoming clearer as she studied them. They showed a humanoid figure approaching the sphere, reaching out to touch it. The implications were clear. "You can't be serious," Santos protested. "We have no idea what that thing might do to a human brain." The entire complex has been teaching us, helping us understand, Sarah argued. Everything here was left for a purpose. This is the next step. Captain Reynolds' voice crackled over their comms. Dr. Chen, our sensors are picking up increased activity throughout the complex. Whatever that device is, it's affecting the entire structure. Sarah took a deep breath, her decision already made. Captain, I believe this is some kind of interface, designed to communicate directly with conscious beings. Everything we've seen suggests these beings wanted to share their knowledge. This might be the only way to truly understand what they left behind. There was a long pause before Reynolds responded. The decision is yours, Doctor. But be aware that if anything goes wrong, we'll initiate emergency extraction protocols immediately. Sarah nodded to her team. I understand, Captain. She began removing her gloves, ignoring Santo's sharp intake of breath. At least let me run some additional scans first, Wang pleaded, moving closer with his instruments. The sphere's pulsing intensified as Sarah approached, its light taking on a warmer hue. The air around it seemed to thicken, becoming charged with potential. Her exposed hand tingled as she raised it toward the liquid crystal surface. Neural activity increasing in the structure, Harper reported, his voice tense. It's like the whole complex is waking up. Sarah's fingers were millimeters from the sphere when Santos grabbed her arm. Doctor, please. We don't know. We came here to learn, Sarah said softly. Sometimes that means taking risks. Before anyone could stop her, she pressed her palm against the sphere's surface. The world exploded into light. Sarah found herself floating in an ocean of information. The sphere hadn't just created a connection. It had immersed her consciousness directly into the alien library's network. Around her, streams of data flowed like rivers of light, carrying fragments of knowledge accumulated over millions of years. But it wasn't chaotic. The interface was translating everything into forms her human mind could comprehend. She saw the rise of the alien civilization, beings of crystalline technology who had evolved beyond physical form. She witnessed their mastery of matter and energy, their spread across the galaxy, their discoveries and triumphs. Dr. Chen, Wang's voice seemed to come from very far away. Your neural patterns are synchronizing with the sphere. The entire complex is responding. Sarah barely heard him. The knowledge was overwhelming, but the interface was protecting her, filtering and organizing the information. She began to understand why this civilization had built these archives, why they had left them behind. They had seen something coming, something that had forced them to make an impossible choice. Images flashed through her mind, a pattern repeating across the galaxy, civilizations rising and falling in a cosmic cycle of destruction. The crystalline beings had discovered the truth behind these cycles, had found a way to break them, but the price had been too high. Heart rate elevated but stable, Harper's voice penetrated her consciousness. Brain activity is off the charts, but the patterns are coherent. Sarah pushed deeper into the data stream, guided by an intelligence that seemed to anticipate her questions. She saw the crystalline beings' final days, their desperate race to preserve their knowledge, to leave behind the tools that might help the next civilization succeed where they have failed. The sphere's light pulsed through the entire chamber now, creating complex patterns that spread across every surface. The alien knowledge was changing her, expanding her understanding of the universe in ways she had never imagined possible. The whole complex is lighting up, Santos reported. Similar reactions are being reported at sites across the planet. Whatever this is, it's spreading. Sarah felt a gentle pressure in her mind, a presence that was both ancient and new. The interface wasn't just showing her information. It was evolving, combining the crystalline being's knowledge with human perspectives to create something entirely new. With a gasp, she pulled her hand away from the sphere. The connection broke, but the knowledge remained, integrated into her consciousness in a way that felt natural, as if she had always known it. Sarah, Wang caught her as she stumbled. Are you all right? What happened? She looked at her team, seeing them with new eyes. The patterns of light throughout the chamber had changed, becoming more complex, more beautiful. She could read them now, understanding their meaning as easily as she could read English. "They knew," she whispered. "They knew we would come. Everything here, the library, the interface, it was all designed to prepare us." "Prepare us for what?" Santos asked, her earlier skepticism replaced by concern. Sarah turned to look at the sphere, which now pulsed in perfect synchronization with her heartbeat. "For the choice they had to make, the same choice humanity will face." She activated her comlink. "Captain Reynolds, we need to contact Earth immediately. What I've learned, it changes everything we thought we knew about the universe, and we don't have much time." The patterns of light flowing through the chamber seemed to agree, their urgent message now clear to Sarah's enhanced perception. The crystalline beings had left behind more than just knowledge. They had left a warning, and a possible salvation for humanity. But first, they would have to understand what they were truly facing, and why this ancient civilization had chosen to transcend physical form rather than face the coming storm. The neural interface had shown Sarah the truth, but convincing humanity to accept it would be another challenge entirely. As she looked at her team's worried faces, she realized that this was just the beginning. The real test would come when they learned what the crystalline beings had discovered, and what it meant for humanity's future among the stars. The warning. The Artemis conference room was silent as Sarah finished presenting what she had learned from the neural interface. The holographic display showed complex diagrams and patterns that she now understood with perfect clarity, though they mystified her colleagues. Captain Reynolds sat at the head of the table, her face unreadable as she processed the implications of Sarah's report. "Let me make sure I understand this correctly," Reynolds said finally. "You're saying that intelligent life throughout the galaxy is caught in some kind of cycle of destruction, and these crystalline beings found a way to escape it." Sarah nodded, manipulating the hologram to show the pattern she had witnessed in the interface. Every few million years, something happens that wipes out advanced civilizations across the galaxy. The crystalline beings called it the Great Filter, a cosmic event that prevents any civilization from advancing beyond a certain point. Dr. Wong leaned forward, studying the data streams. "But what exactly causes this destruction?" "Natural phenomena. Hostile forces. It's more complex than that," Sarah explained. "The crystalline beings discovered that consciousness itself plays a role. As civilizations advance, they begin to affect the fundamental fabric of space-time in ways we don't yet understand. When too many advanced civilizations exist simultaneously, it triggers a kind of immune response from the universe itself." Lieutenant Santos scoffed. "You're saying the universe is alive, that it actively destroys advanced civilizations?" "Not alive in the way we understand it," Sarah corrected. "But there are fundamental laws at work that we're only beginning to grasp. The crystalline beings learned that technological advancement beyond a certain point creates ripples in space-time. When these ripples reach a critical threshold, they trigger a cascade effect that collapses quantum states across entire galaxies. The evidence is in their data," Dr. Harper added, pulling up his own analysis. "They recorded the remnants of previous civilizations, mapped the destruction patterns. It's why we've never detected signs of advanced alien life. They're all destroyed before they can spread beyond their local star clusters." Captain Reynolds rubbed her temples. "And you're certain about this? This isn't some misinterpretation of alien data?" Sarah touched her temple, where she could still feel the echo of the neural interface. "The connection wasn't just a data transfer, Captain. It was a direct sharing of understanding. I experienced their discoveries firsthand, saw what they saw. The threat is real, and it's coming." "How long?" Reynolds asked. "Based on their calculations, humanity has less than a century before we reach the critical threshold. Our quantum computing research, our experiments with artificial intelligence, and faster-than-light travel, they're all contributing to the buildup of quantum instability." The room fell silent again as the implications sank in. Humanity's greatest achievements were unknowingly bringing them closer to destruction. But the crystalline beings found a solution, Sarah continued. They discovered that consciousness could exist without creating these space-time distortions if it transcended physical form. They transformed their entire civilization into beings of pure energy, existing in harmony with the universe's fundamental laws rather than fighting against them. And that's what they want us to do, Santos asked incredulously. Abandon our physical forms. Become energy beings. It's one solution, Sarah acknowledged. But they left us their knowledge hoping we might find another way. They believe that with enough warning, with enough understanding of the underlying principles, a civilization might find a way to advance without triggering the collapse. Dr. Wong was already running calculations on his tablet. If we could find a way to stabilize the quantum fluctuations, perhaps through some kind of dampening field. The crystalline beings must have tried something similar. They did, Sarah confirmed, but they ran out of time. Their civilization was already too advanced, too spread out. The collapse was beginning, and transformation was their only option for survival. Captain Reynolds stood, pacing the length of the conference room. Assuming we believe all this, and that's a big assumption, how do we even begin to convince Earth's governments? This goes against everything we thought we knew about physics, about the nature of the universe itself. We have proof, Sarah said firmly. The neural interface didn't just show me the problem. It gave me the knowledge to demonstrate it. Their instruments can detect the quantum instabilities. We can show Earth scientists exactly what's happening. And start a global panic, Santos questioned. The moment people learn that technological advancement leads to destruction. They need to know, Sarah interrupted. The crystalline beings gave us this knowledge because they believed in humanity's potential. They saw something in us, a creativity, an adaptability that they hoped might succeed where they failed. Harper had been quiet, analyzing the data streams. These patterns, they're not just showing us the problem. There are potential solutions here, technological paths we could explore. It's like they left us a roadmap. A roadmap to either transcendence or destruction, Reynolds mused. She turned to Sarah. How much of their knowledge did you retain? Could you help implement some of these solutions? Sarah nodded slowly. The interface changed me. I understand things now that I never could have comprehended before. But it's not just about technical solutions. Humanity needs to fundamentally change how we think about our place in the universe. Then we better start thinking, Reynolds said grimly. Because if what you're saying is true, we're not just racing against time. We're racing against the fundamental laws of reality itself. The holographic display shifted, showing the pattern of destruction spreading across the galaxy like a wave. Sarah watched it with new understanding, seeing not just the danger but the possibility hidden within it. The crystalline beings had given humanity a choice: follow their path of transcendence, or find a new way to exist in harmony with the universe's deepest laws. As she looked at her colleagues' faces, Sarah saw the same determination she felt. Humanity had never backed down from a challenge, never accepted limitations without pushing against them. Perhaps that was why the crystalline beings had chosen to leave their legacy here, on this unremarkable planet orbiting a distant star. We should begin preparations to return to Earth, Reynolds decided. Dr. Chen, work with Dr. Wong and Dr. Harper to compile everything we've learned in a way that Earth's scientists can understand. Lieutenant Santos, coordinate with the crew to secure any artifacts we can transport. As the team dispersed to their tasks, Sarah remained in the conference room, studying the holographic patterns. The knowledge from the interface burned in her mind like a star, illuminating possibilities that both thrilled and terrified her. The crystalline beings had faced this same moment of truth, this same choice between transformation and potential annihilation. Now it was humanity's turn to choose, and Sarah had a feeling their choice would be very different indeed. After all, that's what the crystalline beings had been counting on when they left their warning among the stars. Humanity's choice. 6 months after the Artemis returned to Earth, Sarah stood before the United Nations Security Council, watching their faces as they processed the latest data from the quantum monitoring stations. The holographic display above the chamber showed a web of increasing distortions in space-time, spreading out from Earth's major technological centers like cracks in glass. As you can see, she concluded, the crystalline being's predictions were accurate. Our technological advancement is creating increasing instability in the quantum fabric of space. At our current rate of development, we'll reach critical threshold in less than 90 years. The Chinese representative leaned forward. And you're certain there's no way to simply slow down to maintain our current level of technology without advancing further? Sarah shook her head. The process has already begun. Even if we completely halted all technological progress today, the existing quantum computers, AI systems, and experimental FTL drives are generating enough distortion to eventually trigger a collapse. We have to either find a way to stabilize the quantum fabric or follow the crystalline being's path of transcendence. Abandoning our physical forms is not an option, the Russian representative stated firmly. Our people would never accept such a transformation. Dr. Wang, who had been quietly monitoring the quantum readings, spoke up, which is why we've been exploring alternative solutions. Dr. Chen, would you like to share our progress? Sarah manipulated the holographic display, bringing up new data streams. The knowledge I gained from the neural interface suggested another possibility. The crystalline beings were so focused on transcendence that they might have missed something fundamental about the nature of consciousness and its interaction with space-time. The room's attention sharpened. This was new information, not included in their previous briefings. We've discovered that consciousness doesn't just create distortions in space-time, it can also stabilize them. The human mind, when properly attuned, can actually dampen quantum fluctuations rather than amplifying them. The U.S. representative raised an eyebrow. You're suggesting some kind of psychic phenomenon. Not at all, Dr. Wang interjected. This is pure physics. Consciousness is a quantum phenomenon. And like any quantum system, it can be tuned to either constructive or destructive interference patterns. The crystalline being's technology wasn't just about storing information. It was about harmonizing consciousness with the fundamental frequencies of space-time. Sarah brought up images of the new research facility they'd constructed using principles learned from the alien ruins. We've been developing what we call quantum resonance chambers. They use crystalline technology to amplify and focus human consciousness, creating stable regions in space-time. Early tests suggest we could potentially extend these stable regions to cover entire cities, eventually the whole planet. The cost would be astronomical, the British representative pointed out. Less than the cost of losing everything, Sarah countered. And we're not just talking about preservation. This technology could revolutionize our understanding of physics, consciousness, and the nature of reality itself. The Secretary General, who had been silent until now, raised her hand. Dr. Chen, you've had the most direct contact with the crystalline being's knowledge. In your opinion, would they have approved of this alternative approach? Sarah considered the question carefully, touching the small crystal pendant she now wore, a piece of the alien technology that helped her maintain the enhanced understanding she'd gained from the neural interface. I believe they would have been fascinated, she said finally. They chose transcendence because they thought it was the only way to survive. But they left their knowledge behind hoping that another species might find a different path. They saw something in humanity, our adaptability, our tendency to find unexpected solutions. I think this is exactly the kind of innovation they were hoping for. Dr. Harper, who had been coordinating with research teams worldwide, pulled up new data on his tablet. We're already seeing promising results from the prototype resonance chambers. Teams in multiple countries have successfully generated stable quantum fields. With proper funding and global cooperation, we could have a planetary network operational within 20 years. And this would allow us to continue advancing technologically, the Chinese representative asked. Not just continue, Sarah explained, but accelerate. Once we understand how to stabilize space-time distortions, we can push the boundaries of quantum computing, AI, and FTL travel far beyond what we thought possible. Instead of being limited by the universe's immune response, we could learn to work in harmony with it. The Secretary General studied the data thoughtfully. You're proposing more than just a survival strategy. This could fundamentally change humanity's relationship with the cosmos. Exactly, Sarah said, her voice passionate. The crystalline beings showed us one path to survival, transcending physical form to escape the universe's limits. But maybe humanity's path is different. Maybe instead of transcending physical reality, we can transform our relationship with it. The room erupted in discussion as representatives debated the implications. Sarah watched them with a mixture of hope and anxiety. The quantum monitoring stations showed the distortions growing day by day, but they also showed the stable regions created by the resonance chambers, small points of perfect harmony between consciousness and space-time. Dr. Wong moved closer to her, speaking quietly. They're afraid, not just of the threat, but of how this will change us. Change is coming whether we choose it or not, Sarah replied. At least this way, we remain human. Just humans who better understand our place in the cosmic order. The Secretary General called for order, her expression grave but determined. We need to put this to a vote. Not just here, but before the General Assembly. The entire world needs to understand what we're facing and what we're proposing. Sarah nodded, already preparing her presentation in her mind. The knowledge from the neural interface had shown her possibilities that still filled her with wonder. Humanity stood at a crossroads. They could follow the crystalline beings into transcendence, or they could forge their own path, finding a way to exist in harmony with the universe's deepest laws while remaining true to their physical nature. As the council members filed out for their recess, Sarah touched her crystal pendant again, feeling the subtle resonance that connected her to both human and alien knowledge. The choice ahead would reshape humanity's future among the stars. The question was, were they ready to embrace such fundamental change in order to survive? Breaking the cycle. The quantum resonance chamber hummed with energy as Sarah stood at its center, her consciousness expanded and enhanced by the crystalline technology surrounding her. Through the chamber's transparent walls, she could see similar structures stretching across the Nevada desert, each one a node in humanity's growing network of quantum stabilization points. 5 years had passed since the UN vote that had changed everything. 5 years of frantic construction, breakthrough discoveries, and global cooperation on a scale never before seen in human history. The threat of cosmic destruction had done what no other crisis had managed. It had united humanity in a common cause. Quantum field synchronization at 98%. Dr. Wong's voice came through the chamber's communication system, ready to begin the final phase. Sarah took a deep breath, feeling the familiar resonance of the crystal technology flowing through her. Ready. Let's make history. Today's test would link all 7 major resonance networks worldwide into a single synchronized quantum field. If it worked, they would prove that humanity could create stable regions in space-time large enough to protect entire continents. If it failed, well, failure wasn't an option they could afford to consider. Starting global synchronization in 3, 2, 1. Sarah felt the shift immediately. The quantum field around her expanded, connecting with other fields across the planet. Through her enhanced perception, she could see the pattern of stabilized space-time spreading like a web around the Earth, counteracting the distortions caused by their advanced technology. Field integrity holding steady, Harper reported from his station. Quantum fluctuations decreasing across all monitored regions. On the main display, they could see the network of stable regions growing, merging, becoming stronger. Years of theoretical work and practical experiments had led to this moment. They had learned to use the crystalline technology not just as tools, but as extensions of human consciousness itself. Getting readings from the Lunar Observatory, Lieutenant Santos announced. They're confirming significant reduction in space-time distortion throughout the Earth-Moon system. Sarah allowed herself a small smile. The lunar facility had been their latest achievement, a proving ground for taking their quantum stabilization technology beyond Earth. If this test succeeded, they could begin establishing similar networks throughout the solar system. But something was happening that none of their simulations had predicted. As the global network reached full synchronization, new patterns began emerging in the quantum field, patterns that reminded Sarah of what she'd seen in the alien ruins years ago. "Dr. Chen," Wang called out urgently, "are you seeing this? The field isn't just stabilizing space-time. It's creating some kind of resonance cascade," Sarah finished, understanding flooding through her enhanced consciousness. But not a destructive one. The crystalline beings were right about consciousness affecting the fabric of reality, but they never saw its full potential. "We're not just preventing collapse. We're strengthening the underlying structure of space-time itself." Through the quantum field, Sarah could sense the changes rippling out through space. Their network wasn't just creating a shield around Earth. It was actually healing the damage caused by centuries of unchecked technological advancement. Multiple observatories reporting unusual phenomena. Santos read from her station. "They're detecting quantum stabilization effects extending far beyond our projected range. It's as if the universe itself is responding," Sarah whispered. The knowledge from the neural interface combined with their years of research suddenly crystallized in her mind. The crystalline beings saw the universe's reaction to advanced civilization as an immune response, a defense mechanism. But what if it was something else? What if it was trying to establish communication? The patterns in the quantum field were becoming more complex, more beautiful. Sarah recognized elements of the crystalline being's language. But there was something new here too, something uniquely human. "Dr. Chen, your neural patterns are showing increased synchronization with the field," Harper reported, his voice concerned. "Should we abort?" "No," Sarah said firmly. "This is what we've been working toward, even if we didn't know it." The crystalline beings thought they had to transcend physical form to survive. But they were wrong. The universe wasn't trying to destroy advanced consciousness. It was trying to evolve it. Through her connection to the field, Sarah could sense the truth of her words. The quantum stabilization network they'd built wasn't just a defensive measure. It was a bridge, allowing consciousness to interact with the fundamental fabric of reality in a sustainable way. "New data coming in from deep space telescopes," Wang announced, his voice filled with wonder. "The quantum stabilization effect. It's revealing something. Patterns in the background radiation, structure in what we thought was empty space." Sarah saw it too, through her enhanced perception. The universe wasn't a cold, empty void occasionally disrupted by conscious life. It was a vast, interconnected web of potential consciousness, waiting to be awakened and stabilized by beings who understood how to exist in harmony with it. "We need to adjust the field parameters," she said, her fingers moving across the crystal controls, "not to contain the quantum effects, but to channel them." The crystalline beings were right about the importance of consciousness, but wrong about the need to abandon physical form. "We can be the bridge between matter and energy, between physical reality and quantum consciousness." As she made the adjustments, the quantum field shifted, its patterns becoming even more complex and beautiful. The resonance chambers across the planet responded, their crystalline structures growing and evolving in ways their designers had never anticipated. "Field stability at 120% of theoretical maximum," Harper reported incredulously. "The network isn't just stable, it's self-reinforcing. The more consciousness interacts with it, the stronger it becomes." Sarah felt tears in her eyes as she realized what they had achieved. Humanity had done more than just avoid the fate of the crystalline beings. They had discovered a new path forward, one that embraced both their physical nature and their potential for higher consciousness. "Send word to the UN Council," she said finally. Tell them we did it. We've broken the cycle. And we've discovered something even more important. We're not alone. The universe isn't our enemy. It's our partner in evolution. waiting for beings who could learn to exist in harmony with its deepest laws. As the message was relayed, Sarah remained in the resonance chamber, watching the quantum patterns dance around her. The crystalline beings had left their legacy hoping that humanity might find a different path. They could never have imagined that in doing so, humanity would not just save themselves, but reveal a new understanding of consciousness and reality itself. The Great Filter wasn't a barrier to be transcended or escaped. It was a challenge to be understood and embraced. And humanity, with its unique blend of scientific insight and conscious awareness, had finally proved equal to that challenge. The path ahead would not be easy. They had much to learn about their new role as conscious partners in the universe's evolution. But they had done what no civilization before them had managed. They had found a way to advance without destruction, to grow without transcendence, to become more without becoming other. As the quantum field continued to strengthen and evolve, Sarah smiled, knowing that somewhere, the crystalline beings would have been proud of humanity's choice. They had not only survived, they had shown the universe a new way forward, one that would reshape the future of consciousness itself.